to the computer. All right. H for Hustle podcast. Welcome back. We have another illustrious guest. Today we have Mariko Fredericks of Soul Priority. Mariko, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So if I was to ask you right now, what do you do for a living? What do you say? What would you tell people?
I help people align their soul's purpose, what they're here to do, with the work they do in the world, how they make an income.
Got it. So you align what they're supposed to do and how they have to make means on the earth to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be separate. I think a lot of people, they go to church on Sunday or Wednesday, or they have a spiritual practice, and then the rest of the time they work. And I think it's one thing.
Got it. So where does the disalignment usually happen, where people don't work and do what their purpose is?
I think it starts when we're little. I remember when I was a little, like 4 years old, and my aunt said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I don't know where I found this word, but I said, "I'm going to be a physicist." And like the whole room erupted in cheers. Like, okay, I'm 4 years old and I'm going to be a physicist. I didn't know what that meant. And nobody said, "Well, who are you? What are you here to do?" It's, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
As if being Mariko was enough.
Okay. Yeah.
I had to be something else. And I had to be something that made my family proud.
Got it. And then
I think it starts young.
That programming of everyone erupting gave you like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, because everyone's excited about this word, this thing that I have no clue of what it is. Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. If I was to meet you, I'd say 15 years ago, who would I have met?
15 years ago.
15, 20 years ago. Yeah.
I got a big difference. So when I was 29, is when I got sick, and I was very sick for a long time. 20 years ago, I was practicing alternative healing, Chinese medicine. I was an avid rock climber. I was incredibly, kind of the top of my game as far as fitness. Climbing 1,600 feet in a day was not unusual. 1,000 feet vertical rock walls. Climbing as often as I could. I moved to the mountains just so I could climb.
Were you a climber, or in general, or no?
I was a climber. Yeah.
Okay.
It was before climbing got popular too. In fact, when I first started, when I was about 18, I was one of just a handful of women out there climbing. And I just sort of, climbing can be pretty addictive. And so I eventually left the city where I was living in Southern California, my job at UCLA Medical Center, and I moved to the mountains to just be a climber.
Got it. And you said you were practicing Eastern medicine. Was that what you were doing for a living, or were you rock climbing for a living?
No. I wasn't that good. No. I had a practice in alternative healing. And then I also climbed.
Got it. So alternative medicine is like a big word, because alternative medicine could be chiropractic, could be food. What was like kind of the alternative medicine?
It's a branch of Chinese medicine called Asian bodywork therapy. It's not super popular. So in Chinese medicine, everybody knows acupuncture. And that's one of the branches of Chinese medicine. And then there's Chinese herbology. And then there is something called Asian bodywork therapy, which encompasses some herbs. It encompasses body work and encompasses energy work, to where you have the same foundation of Chinese medicine. So I'm actually board certified with the National Certification for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, but I'm certified in bodywork therapy, or Asian bodywork therapy. So that's what I was doing. It's like needleless acupuncture.
Needleless acupuncture. Wow, never heard of that. I actually went to an Asian doctor, I would say 8, 9, 10 years ago. He helped my wrist. And it was just like, oh yeah, okay, I have drink these herbs and you'll be good in like 3 days. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, oh yeah, you're just coming down with a little flu. And I'm like, you just touched my wrist. That's impossible. Like, how is that a thing? And he was right, 100%. He was 100% right. So a lot of people don't understand Eastern medicine. I don't really, but I actually kind of got it. And then I did another thing where you put like a wax in your ear, and they light it, and then they pull out all the, I thought that was, I thought that was super interesting. I never really understood what it did, but I always felt better after it. So
good.
Got it. So you dropped a little thing in there. You said at 29 you got sick. So let's go to that part in your life. So you're an avid rock climber. You're doing great in life. You have your practice, and then you got sick. What happened?
A couple things happened at once. So I was also big into hiking. I was living in the mountains in the Sierra Nevadas, and went on a hike, and I got bit by a tick. And I didn't think a thing of it. Living in the mountains, You
That
get
happens.
bit by ticks. It's not a big deal. I noticed it was really small, and it was walking away by the time I saw it on my arm. So I kind of like brushed it off and, went about my day. And a few weeks later, I felt like I had the flu. I was like exhausted. My neck was killing
Mm.
me. I had a headache. I was just like, oh, what is wrong with me? And so, unbeknownst to me, I had contracted Lyme disease.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea. And I went to somebody to help me feel better. And really, I kind of do a short story on this one. But she was not licensed to practice alternative medicine and had not been to school, and ended up hurting me pretty severely, to where that's when I had a near-death experience. She was ordering equipment from somebody that had a license. So
Wow.
I ended up having two things happen to me. I had the damage from her treatment, and I also had Lyme disease. And so when I went to a doctor, he didn't even, there was so much going on, he missed it, really. I had the bullseye rash, which
Yeah.
is indicative of having Lyme disease, and he just missed it. And it was right on my arm. It was like a little circle and dot. So
Was it because Lyme disease isn't really that like a big of a disease, and most
yeah,
people at the time just didn't know?
no, they had no idea. And this was, this is a long time ago. And
Okay.
so there were like, I think when I looked it up, I saw there was like 4 cases a year in the area I was living in.
Got it. So it was very rare for him to even recognize it.
Yeah,
Got
yeah. And,
it.
because of the other damage, he wasn't looking for it.
Got it. And Lyme disease is like an autoimmune disease, kind of like shuts your body down slowly, right?
It definitely shuts your body down, but it's not an autoimmune. It's an infection,
Okay.
and it spreads throughout your whole body, and it's difficult to find, it's difficult to treat, it's difficult to diagnose. But it's it's funny. I survived end stage Lyme disease, to where it was in my brain, and I was having trouble
Wow.
walking, talking, having mini strokes, really sick. And I probably know less about Lyme disease than most people that have even a
Wow.
mild case, because I refused to look into it. I was like, I don't want to own this disease. I am not this disease. And it was a whole mindset thing around, I realized I had to save my own life, that the doctors weren't necessarily going to be able to do something to like magically, help
Cure
me.
you. Yeah,
And
because
so
there is no cure for it, right?
I mean, not really. There's not like oh, this absolutely works. It's like you do antibiotics for a long time. I did IV treatments for a year. But what I did might not work for another person that has it. And so there's not like this absolutely works every time. They don't have one thing that
Got
works.
it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then
So
sometimes it doesn't work for, nothing works for some people. So
yeah.
I was very lucky.
I met someone else that had it, and it's like has to adjust his diet, everything for his body to work well. And like you said, if that just might be good for him, that might not be good for someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely want to adjust your diet and like stop eating sugar and crap.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
because that helps in everything that
don't
you do.
feed the infection. Yeah. But
Got it.
there's not a one size fits all as far as the cure.
So you're coming from super active, having your practice, to now, wham, you are
In bed.
like in bed. And how are you mentally coping at this point?
So, I think 2 things were going on. One, I was blissed out because I had a near death experience.
Okay.
And in that experience, you see a lot about yourself, about life, about how things are. And so I came back kind of with no worries, but I also came back not really able to stand up.
Really? So let's go back for a second. You said near-death experience. Like, how far were you gone? Like, how long were you out for?
I don't know, because I was at home. And so I didn't have like a medical team around me saying, okay, her heart has stopped for this many seconds or minute or whatever. So for me, my experience felt like a long time. People ask me that all the time, how long was it? And I have no idea in this world how long I was gone.
Yeah.
But I always say, because my experience was so in-depth and so, there is no time on the other side. Time doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into that timeless state of bliss. And I would say when I came back, the number on my heart was, I felt like I was there for 800 years.
Really?
But I was probably there for like, a minute or 2.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So on the other side now, you're there. What is going on? What are certain things? Were you content with saying, I want to stay on the other side? Like, what was actually happening?
Yeah. And it's funny because it's not like you think, oh, wow, I'm dying, because you're not. we see this as death on this side, but when I left my body, it was like, oh my God, that's so much better. Like breathing was so hard and now the pain's gone and oh my gosh, I feel better.
Got
So
it.
I didn't feel like I was dying or leaving anything because everything I loved, I was taking with me.
Got it. You felt like you just left that vessel that was causing you pain.
Yeah. And then I felt completely alive. I felt
Wow.
so alive. I would say I've never felt more alive than when I
Got
was
it. Wow.
what we
And
call death.
so you're there now. The pain is gone. You want to stay. So what in what shape sends you backwards?
They told me, so here I am. So, okay, not even fair, right?
Yeah.
Here I am soaring in bliss consciousness, just like happy as a clam, like, oh my God, I have arrived. This is living. And then I hear this voice saying, you have to go back. And I'm like,
Why?
Yeah. And by then it felt like it was so long. They're saying you have to go back. You have to go back and help people. You have to remember who you are and go back and help people. And I'm thinking, you want me to go back and be who? Like I could barely remember who Mariko was.
Wow.
I mean, the way I feel it, the way I describe it is it's like seeing, the tip of a needle, so far away and someone saying, that's who you have to go back and be. And you're like, I can barely see that, let alone know who that was.
Yeah, because you were so disconnected from it at that point.
I was disconnected from that and I was connected to my true self as a soul. And so to have to go back and be in a physical body and be Mariko and play the role of, whatever my job was and all that stuff was it doesn't exist over there.
So were you sent back with like a message, like this is what you have to do? And when you heard that, did you know like, okay, this is what I'm gonna have to do? Or how was that like? Because you got sent back. Most people stay on the other side, so you were
I was sent back and so I'm pretty argumentative. Like I'm not super, I've been this way my whole life.
Okay.
So when they're like, you have to go back, I was like, no. And they're just like so sweet and just so much like just divine love pouring into me saying, you have to go back and help people. It's not your time. And, I'm like, you can't make me.
I like it over here. It's nice.
Yeah.
I got a house.
Yeah. My inner 4-year-old was like, you can't make me, I'm home. Why would I go anywhere? And so, on the third time they explained it to me, right? Because that's just me. Like, tell me why. Don't just tell me I got to do something. Tell me you have a good reason for me. And so they said, every soul has a time and this isn't your time. And you have to go back and help people. And then I was like, okay, that makes sense. Just don't tell me I got to go back.
Got it.
They're like, this literally is not your moment. And you do have something you have to go do.
There's something bigger for you to do.
There's something bigger you have to do. And it didn't come in words. There were words that happened, but it wasn't like, okay, Mariko, so I'm going to send you back and you're going to be sick for a little bit. And then you're going to have a marketing plan and you're going to have a website and it's going to be great. And you're going to write a book and no. I wish. I came back. I had no idea how to build a real business. Building a practice in healing is so different than a real business. Like not a real business, but like a
business outside of the medical field.
Yeah. Aside from like me being the healer, taking in clients, it's different when you're trying to do an online business and in-person business.
But you're being sent back to a vessel that didn't work healthy to begin with, right? So when you come back now, where's your body? Where's that? Is that back in good shape or is that no? Okay.
No. I went from, I felt like over the course of a very short time, I felt like I couldn't recognize myself anymore. I went from this really solid 125 pound, muscular rock climber to 200 pounds, barely able to crawl to the bathroom.
Just like bedridden the whole time.
Yeah. I could stand up and then eventually sometimes I couldn't because I would have little mini strokes and I would be stuck in bed. And so I went from running a practice in alternative healing. And before that, I'd worked in a neurotrauma intensive care unit. So I went from that to being so confused 3.5 years later that I couldn't even turn a doorknob.
Wow.
It was affecting my brain.
So you come from this.
I didn't recognize myself.
So you come from this very strong physical person, also very strong mentally. Everything career is lined up. Everything seems like it's going to go the right way for like the rest of your life. And then you're sitting on this bed in a very, very like needy state. You go from like this most person who's independent to like very, very needy. How does that take a toll on you?
I had to fight. I had to fight. You know, you could lose yourself in that. And I knew I had an assignment on my life. I didn't know what it was. So they gave me like a download when I was there.
Mm,
And that's how I describe it. It felt like these souls were just downloading information into me. But when I came back, I was digesting it for 10 years. I had to live through it for 10 years.
got
I
it.
couldn't just pop out a book and say, oh, this is what they told me. No, it was way more interesting than that. I had to live through all of the difficulties over 10 years and go through the valley and just,
So
lose my identity.
how do you then start rehabilitating yourself? How do you start coming back from that? What's the process from being bedridden to now we're talking and you're alive and up? So
Yeah.
how long does that take and what's the process in doing that?
It was 3.5 years to even be diagnosed. And then once it was, and in that time, it was about 16 doctors and 3.5 years, a lot of money trying to figure out what it was. And when we did figure it out and found a doctor who could help me, she really did help me and bring me back. But even then, it's Lyme disease has all these other problems that come with it. And I had to kind of battle those. So I would say it took around, it really was, I say a decade, it was more than a decade it took to like really climb back into who I am, right? Climb out of the ashes of what was. And I had to reinvent myself. It wasn't like I knew who I was coming out of that. I had no more identity. I didn't know. I mean, the universe, God really just stripped me down raw. And one, I saw that I'm not any of the things I think I am, right? The ego consciousness of, oh, I'm Mariko and this is what I do and this is my life. Like all that I already knew wasn't real on the other side. And then on top of it, I had, I didn't know where to fit. Where do I go now, right? I lost too much memory. I couldn't go back to my old career. I couldn't remember all that.
Yeah.
How do I move forward? It really became a mindset game of I would not even say the word sick or Lyme disease. I would just focus on, seeing myself as healthy and whole.
Wow. That's so in this whole time you're getting these downloads, right? What are these downloads saying to you? And then how do you because all right, so here's the reason why I asked, right? A lot of people get a lot of downloads. I personally believe that I've gotten a whole bunch of them in my life. But is it because you're on the other side, you listen to it? Because a lot of people get those downloads and don't listen to it. Like, what made you say, this is what I have to do and I have to go in this direction?
You make it sound so simple. I love it. Jerome, I had no idea. I came back. They didn't use language with the download. It was really just like this energy being, almost put into me. What started happening was I was just having conversations with people, and the download started to unravel in these conversations.
Okay.
And I would watch it happen. I had no idea what was happening. They kind of left me out of it. They didn't tell me what was going to happen or what I should do with it. They just sort of gave me this little gift, and I just sort of watched it unfold.
Got it. Okay. So it takes you 10 years to rehabilitate yourself to a person that you kind of recognize, or just a new embodiment of yourself. Mm-hmm. Where do you then take that, all these things, and then say, I'm going to make a business or a practice or a service out of this? Like, when does that part start happening?
So I think I did what most people do, is I fumbled and I tried to figure it out on my own. Okay. Right. I tried to go, okay, so Soul Priority is the name of my company. I knew that just came to my head. And, and then I put up a website and I put money into different things and learning how to do this and that. And I did things backwards. What I should have done is hire a coach who knew how to start a business. And I didn't do that because I didn't know to. And so it took a long time and good chunk of money to go, oh, I need to find someone who can just help me through this.
Gotcha.
Teach me how to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Like the downloads didn't tell you exactly the plan. You were just kind of fumbling along the way.
Right.
Got it. And how, I could hear my audience asking, how is she sustaining herself through all this, financially? How were you able to do all of that while still redeveloping who you are as a person?
So my husband, I'm married, and we had just been married when I was sick. I think we'd been married about a year and a half, and he got into a really good career.
Okay.
And so he's been able to support us. And honestly, he didn't have a choice, it was so early on in my 20s that we were still kind of trying to establish ourselves
and build.
And so really it just came to where he established himself in his career. And my job was to really get well. So that we could have a life, we had a life, but like a different life, the life we have now, and even more. So yeah, I was very blessed that I have a husband who's supportive.
Got it. And, going back to that question, like what made you listen to those downloads? Is it just something you felt and you just went for what you felt? Or was there a reason why you listened? Because you were on the other side?
You can't really avoid it, because it's not like you can talk yourself out of it and say, well, I don't really have to do that. I mean, you have to do it. Yeah. They're really clear with you. What it is, I didn't know. But whatever it was, I knew I had to do it. I knew that if I died with an assignment on my life, that I would regret it, that I would have to live with a person I am. And knowing the assignment on my life, even though I didn't know the details, knowing I had one and knowing that I was supported in it, I couldn't, how many more hints could they give me? It wasn't even a hint, right? And so
it was like a shove.
Yeah, literally a shove. And so talk about, getting a coach in life. That was the ultimate life coach. So, to die with an assignment on your life, the other thing that happens, this is interesting, is they show you what you could have done. They show you your potential. And then you see all the excuses. You see your excuses. You see how I can't do that because I have this huge obstacle, and but my life and this and that. And some of these obstacles are legit. I've heard stories that just, raise the hairs on my head. They're so horrible. But when you leave this world, the obstacle, I always say, that feels like it's like this, 50-foot tall cement wall by 2 miles wide, that someone's saying, okay, just jump over that. You're like, I can't jump over a 50-foot wall. But when you leave this world, that wall comes down to like a little tiny string about 6 inches off the ground.
And you could just,
and you realize all your obstacles weren't really that big of a deal.
Got it. That's incredible. Was there a moment in the actual, when you were in physical form, that you felt like what you were sent back to do, that you actually were doing it? What was that moment, like first client or that first thing a conversation you had with somebody? What was that? Do you remember that moment that you were like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing?
So it came in parts. I've had some clients that have had big successes after working with me, and it's easy to go, oh no, that was just a coincidence. Yeah. It was just a coincidence every single time all year, 100% of the time, but you're still gonna, be like, well, I don't know. And so I would say the point wasn't just because I watched clients, thank me or do well or whatever. I would say it really came down to having the right mentors reflect back at me who they saw me as, and allowed me to see myself clearly. I think that, I'm a strong believer that we do need help, that we need mentors, and that there are mentors here to help us. When I was doing alternative medicine and I was 23, turning 24, I barely knew what I was doing. Come on, it was like my first couple months. And then the universe sends me this Buddhist monk who's been practicing acupuncture for 50 years. And he decides that he wants to take me as his apprentice. Like, what are the chances of that, right? And he learned some things from a Shaolin monk, and then taught me some things that you don't learn in school. And he passed that on to me. And so when it came time for me to do this, the universe sent me a couple mentors, and one of them was Lisa Nichols.
Okay.
She was in that movie, The Secret.
Okay.
And then her business coach. And so I have worked with both of them. And it really, it took not just me believing in myself, but other people allowing me to see myself and my potential clearly.
And believing in you.
And believing in me. And having it so easy, like, oh my gosh, no, we totally see what you're going to do, what you should do,
And you're like, you really? Where? Really? I don't see it.
I don't know. I mean, it keeps happening, but isn't it just a coincidence? So I would say, having that mentor, having that person that really believes in you is key to success.
Yeah.
You can't do it on our own.
100%. And also, I always tell people why you need a mentor or coach is that they believe in you, but also you get aligned with whoever they know as well. So you get all of their contacts, and usually successful people will share their contacts relatively quickly with you. So that also helps. And then you also are going off of their mistakes too. So they save you. They like, don't go down that road. I've been down there. It's not good, and you get to speed past a lot of the mistakes that they learned ahead of time. So now in your practice, like, what is the type of clients or people that you work with?
So, I'm actually trying to broaden who I work with by launching some online coaching courses.
Okay.
I speak to a lot of people on the phone who maybe aren't ready to do a whole coaching program with me. And so I end up helping them, just answering some questions on the phone in 20 minutes. And I thought, so many of these questions are the same things. It's the same. The questions come differently, but the answers are the same. And so I just put together an online course that I'll be launching soon to help people who are kind of sitting on the fence. They're not really sure. They're not ready to invest thousands into themselves the way that maybe I have, or you have, or other people have in bigger programs, but they just need that first step, right? They got to go from where they are now to the next step. They can't go from where they are now to 10, steps. And so that really is for that sort of budding entrepreneur, the person hoping and feeling like there's something they're meant to do, but they can't figure out what, not quite ready to really launch anything. So that's that course that is coming.
Okay.
And as far as people I work with, I work with doctors, I work with lawyers, I work with CEOs, CFOs, some Olympic athletes, professional athletes, people like that, all kinds of different people.
So there's this person listening to this right now, right? They feel like there's this calling on them, right? They should be doing something bigger. Yeah. Is there steps that they can take to figure out what that was? I don't want everyone to go to the other side and have to maybe not come back to figure it out, So what is some of the steps that they can take to try to figure that out for themselves?
The first thing is, I would say a lot. So every single time, and I'm sure if you've done coaching, you've seen this too. It feels like every single time people are like, well, I don't know what I meant to do. I'm not sure. And I always think it's the most obvious thing about them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you can't find your phone and you're late to an appointment and you're just freaking out because you can't find your phone. You're trying to leave the house and then you're like, it's in my hand
the whole time. Yeah.
The whole time.
That happened to me the other day.
Like that. The universe is not trying to hide anything from you. God is not trying to hide anything from you. And so what you're meant to do, I'm going to say, is probably the most obvious thing about you. The question isn't what I'm meant to do, because your soul knows. The question really is, how do I monetize that? Right? That's the real question.
Yeah.
That's really what people want to know. The thing I'm going to tell you, or your audience, that I see that is really like the formula for the people that I've worked with who are so successful, is when you know you're meant to do something, right? Because I stretch even those people. I stretch them past their comfort zone. What they know is that in order to achieve whatever it is that we're talking about, they have to become the person who can do that. They haven't. And so most of the people I talk to, they haven't become the person who can do the assignment on their life yet. They will, but it's not guaranteed. You do have to be in action and you have to become that person. And so it comes down to daily habits, right? So, and mindset. So if you say, well, here's what you're meant to do, right? And the first thing that person usually says is, well, I don't know if I can do that, or I don't know how to do that. Okay. Yeah. What version of you knows exactly how to do that? Who is the person inside you? Go tap into your soul. Go tap into God. Because every answer you need is there available for you. So don't say, I don't know how. Oh my gosh, you are not helpless. You are a child of the divine. You are a child of God. That whole I don't know how to do it. That's your ego. Yeah, your ego has no idea. Your ego never is going to know. So don't worry about your ego. Tap into that wisdom inside of you and say, okay, well, what do I know about myself? And how can I serve the world? Because it's service that you get paid for. The universe pays or sends abundance almost as gratitude for the service that you give. Yeah. The value you add to this world. If you're just going to go try to make money so that you have money, it's kind of unfulfilling.
And it's unfulfilling, and you're going to burn out at some point doing that. And, a lot of the audience have done that. I've done that. You just go and chase the money, but
Yeah.
it's only but so long. Once you get it, you still feel like you need more, or it's just not enough, or whatever the case may be. So does boil down to service most of the time.
It is service, and it's what's the most obvious thing about you. So I would say the other key, this is literally the formula. How do I know what I'm meant to do? What do you talk about all the time? What do you love talking about? What can you just sit and talk about for an hour?
Yeah.
If you ask me to talk about the assignment on your life, or what people are here to do, or the gifts of their soul, I could just sit and talk about it forever. And that was before I had Soul Priority, before I had a book coming out, before I had anything.
It comes out of you.
Yeah. It was like I was throwing it up everywhere.
Yeah.
So you have to look at yourself and say, what am I always talking about?
Yeah. The thing that made me realize that I should coach people is that everyone kept on saying it to me. It's like, you're really good. Why don't you just do this? Like, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. There's other things I got to do. Not this. This is just me and you talking. And it was like,
that's it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it's just me and you talking right there.
And in those things, it just comes out like that's the purity. And if you're doing it so purely, then that it has to be the thing that you're supposed to do.
Exactly. So the only thing you need a coach for is to figure out how to monetize it. How does that look in the world? How is that birthed into the world? Right. But what are you here to do? Well, who are you? What are you about? Go do that. Go share that.
Got it. And then I can hear somebody saying, but the thing I want to do in this world doesn't monetize well. What is your answer to that? I
would say, first of all, don't ever say that to yourself.
Got it.
Because the universe is unlimited. And, to say, if you were sitting before, I don't know what people's beliefs are spiritually, but I use God because it's the easiest one. But if you're sitting in front of God and you're like, God, I have this, let's just put it straight, right? God, you gave me this gift and you put it inside my soul to go share. But I don't think I can make money in a world that you actually have to pay rent and mortgages. And I think you made a mistake, God. You gave me the wrong gift. I think you screwed up.
I think did
God screw up, or are you just not seeing the whole picture, right? Because it's like, put it in its real content.
Yeah.
I have a gift. I can't make money. Okay, well, maybe you can't, but God can.
Yeah.
With everything is possible. So don't ever say to yourself, my gift is not something that can be monetized. It's a matter of how.
Yeah.
But don't say that, because the more you say that, again, you have to become the person that can do it. The more you talk, you're becoming a person who can't do it. You're becoming the person who couldn't monetize.
Yeah. And then you're just feeding your brain that same thing over and over.
And the universe responds to who you are, not just what you talk about. So the more you talk about, I can't do it, and the more you just sit on the sidelines, you become a person who's sitting on the sidelines. The more you become a person who will take action, I don't care how tiny the action is. The action can be listening to your podcast, listening to other entrepreneurs, reading books, right? It doesn't have to be massive action where you're spending, $10,000 on a program, but you can spend $20 on a book. Yeah. You can spend $100 on an online class. Be the person you need to be, which means be in action.
Or just start doing. That's what I tell a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, like, just start doing. Like, it doesn't you take messy action. It doesn't have to look pretty. You don't have to have it all perfectly. Just do. And then every day that you compound doing, it eventually builds up over time. Even if you're going in the wrong direction, you're doing it. And then eventually the right direction will, appear, and you'll go in the right way. But at least you're taking some sort of action in that direction.
You're becoming the person that's doing. You're becoming a doer.
So
I love it. It can be messy.
Yeah. I have to ask you a selfish question. This is a question from me, and this is almost one of the reasons why I love having the podcast. So there was a moment I felt in myself like I was truly like tapped into like high divine, like I could just feel it, right? I was running every day. I was working out. I was eating the right things. I was praying. I was meditating. I was like so tapped in. And the crazy thing is, everything that I wanted at that moment, I would say, and like 2-3 months later, just starts happening, right? Like, I'm just like, it was so weird. Like, I was saying, oh, I want a Subaru. I think it was such a great car for the kids and us. And it's like, bam, like 4 months later, it's like, oh, it's literally like a Subaru got handed to me. It was just the craziest thing ever. And in a weird way, I got afraid of that and kind of stopped that practice. I don't know, because I was just thinking, if I was able to say something and it comes true, if I say something bad, does that come true too? And in that, I never really analyzed why I knew why I stopped, but I never really dug deep into it. I guess from your point of view, looking at me, what would you say that was? It was just me being afraid, or what was that?
Sure. I mean, we start to tap into that power and we're like, oh my gosh, do I deserve it?
Yeah,
Is this
that,
okay?
that was that was
Right?
a
Comes
part
down
of
to,
it
do I
too.
deserve it? Am I good enough for this? Is this some cosmic mistake? The other thing is you became the person who could manifest. It wasn't just thinking, because there's a lot of people that sit around and think about what they want. They could think about winning the Powerball all day.
Yeah.
Lots of people are thinking about that. But the people that are in action creating something. So when you think about, how you wanted something, you also, there was some action around it. You weren't just thinking, right? You may
No.
have, you may have started to attract what attracted looking at Subarus, and then just pulled that in, but you're also, working and creating income and, wanting to supply and do good for your family and keep them protected. So yeah.
And I was having random conversations with people, and I was kind of like saying it like, yeah, I'm gonna get one. The like financially wasn't there to get one. We already had a car. We didn't really need them. Like, our cars are paid off. It didn't need, like, we needed this Subaru. It wasn't a need. And it was just literally me talking to other people about it, and then wham, it comes up. And I'm giving you just that as a physical thing. There's so many other things I could say within that like 9 months that I would say like 3-4 weeks later just starts appearing in my life. And I'm like, how is this so possible?
So are you familiar with the reticular activating system in your brain?
No, what is that?
So that's how this is happening. It's the neurological reason for how we manifest. So we have something called the reticular activating system at the base of our brain. It's in our brainstem. It's a couple inches long, about the size of a pencil, right? The width of a pencil. And it has a lot of jobs. One of its jobs is we filter all of our senses except smell through the reticular activating system. And so basically it's like a filter for the conscious and subconscious. So if we're sitting at a restaurant and you're with your family and you're having a conversation, your 6-year-old is telling him or her.
She, but all girls. I have all girls.
All girls. Oh my goodness. So she's trying to tell you about her day, or, a picture that she drew, and you're trying to focus on her. And then the waiter behind you spills a whole glass of, a whole tray of beer, and there's another kid screaming in the corner, and somebody walked in, and there's 8,000 things going into our subconscious in that moment. Your reticular activating system is saying, but the important thing is to focus on my baby girl. And so it filters out all the other stuff that isn't really important. And so it focuses on what you want. Your mind basically does what it thinks you want it to do. And so when you want it to focus on a Subaru, it will focus on a Subaru. When you want it to focus on your baby girl, it will focus on your baby girl. When you want it to focus on, I can't do it, it will focus on that.
And it will find ways for all of those
reasons to prove it to you. And so we are hardwired to look for our brains are hardwired to give us what we want. So be very careful with how we use our words. So it's really like a bouncer, like a subconscious bouncer, like who gets in and who doesn't get in. Yeah. And so why that keeps happening, it's partly what's happening in our brain.
Got it. Okay. So I have a lot of research to do on that little brain piece right there. So thank you for answering that, by the way. So I can, I like to ask this question to like every guest. There's somebody sitting in a cubicle. They're dying a slow death. They know they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing in life. That's not their higher calling, is to be an admin. What advice would you give that person that's scared to make that step, or to go in a direction that they feel called to?
I love that. The first thing is stop saying what you said. I'm dying a slow death. I hate my job. The universe, so both the universe and the reticular activating system do not work in time. So perfect example, I have a client I worked with recently, and she works in corporate, and she just was like, I know I can lead people. I know I can be a leader. I want my own team. I know I can lead. And so I saw her several months ago, and then I saw her again this past week, and she came in and she was just overwhelmed. I'm working 16 hours a week. They're just giving me all this extra work. I'm leading all these people now, and I have all these people under me. And, and I looked at her and I was like, That's what you wanted.
Yeah.
You asked do you remember that? And she was like, oh my gosh, I did. And I'm like, but what you didn't do is ask for the promotion. And what you didn't do is become the person that can do this, meaning go take there was a test she needs to take in order to go become a project manager, which she didn't take the test yet. And that would have bumped her up in pay and status. But instead, the universe was like, okay, you want to lead? You're going to lead. Didn't work out the way she wanted it to.
But is that because of, was that because of the wording that was used to what you were asking? I
know I can lead. She didn't say, I know I'm going to lead in the future.
Got it.
I will lead, because in 10 years from now, you'll still be saying, I will lead. I will lose weight. I'm going to lose weight. Okay. In 10 years from now, you're still going to lose weight. I am fit and healthy. I am leading people. My business is flourishing. You don't have to know what it is. I knew I was going to be healthy. I demanded it from the universe, right? I am healthy. Didn't matter that I couldn't actually stand up and I sounded like I had a stroke. I am healthy. I am whole now, not later. So think of when they're sitting at their cubicle feeling like they're dying a slow death. They are becoming the person that is dying a slow death. Stop becoming that person. Just stop it. Stop it now.
You have to be the person that can actually do that thing. So you have to make the steps towards that.
Yes, now. And you can be it at 10%. You don't have to be it at 100.
Got it.
You have to be the person that when you feel that your reticular activating system, your mind going, oh, I can't do it, because now it's on repeat, that you can be the person that's saying, you know what? I choose a different thought. I can do it. I am doing it. I have done it. It's done. It's done.
Got it. So it's more about talking it as if it's already happening. Got it. Okay. Yes. And that was something that to go back to with me, I was journaling every morning, right? And it would be like, and I was goal setting like every week. I set my goals, and the goals were always set in a way that it's like, I will easily accomplish whatever it is. I will easily, it was almost like it was already done already. That's the way I was writing it. I read it from a book, and I just started writing my goals just like it was already done. And then all those things just that I was saying that they were already done or easily done, just started easily happening, and they were like getting done. And I'm like, it can't be this easy.
It is. Your mind believes you. Yeah. Your mind. This is the other thing, people. I wish they all knew this. Your mind is impartial. Your mind is like, I think of it like a whiteboard. Your mind doesn't care what gets put on it. Your mind doesn't have an agenda. Right? We always say, "Oh, my mind's running out of control." Your mind is not. Your mind is like a whiteboard. Yeah. And either your ego is putting all the information on there. I can't do it. I'm not ready. I suck. I'm fat. Or your soul is putting the information on it. I'm going to live my divine right. Abundance is my birthright.
Got it.
Everything I need comes to me easily. Either one you can put on your mind, and your mind's going to believe you and reinforce it.
Got it. And then the more you do that, either one is going to come true, because that's what you've kind of spoken to existence.
And your mind isn't going to stop you.
So there's there's someone else listening to this, and they're like, oh, she makes this sound so easy, right? Like I've tried doing these things before. I've tried losing weight. I've tried starting a business. I failed. And they now have this fear mentality. What advice would you give that person who's stuck in fear or letting fear kind of run their life and control them?
For one thing, don't ever try to lose weight, because your mind only hears wait. I'm going to lose weight. I'm losing weight. Wait. And it's looking for ways to add more weight.
Got it. Okay.
Don't do that. So you just really have to say, I am fit. My body is healthy. I'm at my target, my goal, whatever that is. I weigh 140 pounds or whatever somebody's goal is, 170 pounds if you're a guy. I don't know what weights are, but whatever your goal is, just claim it. As far as it didn't work before, you didn't have this information before. Now you do. You're not the same person. You're not the same person you were. The same person who couldn't do it failed so that you can now come and learn what that person didn't know.
Got it.
That's not you anymore. So you really have to tell yourself when that internal voice says, well, I'm really afraid. I don't know if I can do it. That person, that tried it before, it couldn't do it, didn't do it. But you now can do it. Plus, like you said, do the easy things. don't start with something huge.
Yeah.
Like I love your journal entry. Say that again. What was your journal entry?
I will easily accomplish whatever, and then I just write whatever the thing down is for the week. It wouldn't even be anything big. It'd be like I will easily like make meal prep for Sunday, and it would just like by Saturday, like meal was already prepped. It's like kind of like weird, but I would write like that in just an everyday fashion of just like even my to-do list had the same kind of concept. I would easily get done. I will easily do whatever it is.
And people listening didn't have that information before. Or if they did, they didn't have that along with a particular activating system before. So we're piecing it together for them in this call, in this interview. So hopefully the people who were saying, I can't do it, I would say, stop being the person that can't do it. Stop telling yourself you can't do it, because you're going to just continue to not be able to do it. You're sabotaging yourself.
Yeah.
Start becoming the person that can. Just be that person now. There's no time. It doesn't take time.
So failure is something that was just supposed to bring you to who you were supposed to be.
I think so. Don't you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's just that in this weird world, we are dragged into like failure as looking as like an endpoint, or you didn't accomplish something. And a lot of people get caught up in the way it looks. And I've been, I'm no above anyone else. I've been caught up in that as well, where it's like, man, that didn't go as well. I failed at that. And it's like, no, you learned something from that. And now that is supposed to be the thing. But, I've also been in the bottom where I'm just like, I failed. I suck. Nah. So
that's why you need a mentor.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you've got to surround yourself with people who have really powerful mindsets. So whether I know you're doing your online, you have a group coaching that you do. It's like a matter of getting those people together so they're locked and loaded. They believe in each other on the days that you maybe can't believe in yourself. You have a tribe of people who believe in you and see you.
Got it. That leads me to my next question. Like, I know in today's day and age, it's a little bit easier to find a mentor than before, but there's someone, their life circumstance doesn't allow to, again, spend $10,000 or, buy an online course right now. We're in a very tough time for a lot of people. What would you say is advice for somebody who wants a mentor or really can't foot that bill right now, or look for a coach, they really can't afford it? What are some steps you would give them to go in that direction?
I mean, they're on it, the podcasting. If you can't, so much free information is given on podcasts. Yeah. Like I just gave, a few big chunks out of my course and out of my executive coaching. Like, especially when you're listening to people who do different high performance coaching, they're giving you nuggets. They're just not putting it in it's not in this perfect order. But I would say, there's a lot of information out there that's free because podcasters are like you are doing your thing. And asking us these questions, and we're usually generous enough to go, here you go, here's the answer. So books are great, if that's an affordable thing. I love, because we're busy, I actually do Audible where I just listen to it every month. But that's 20 or whatever it is, $20 a month, so it's not free. But I would say if you can invest in yourself, find a way to invest in yourself, and even if the investment is time.
Yeah.
Even if the investment is time, in that I know 3 people who have a really fantastic mindset. So I'm going to start a mastermind call with them. And every 2 weeks, we're going to get on the phone together and talk about the latest podcast that we listen to, or read a book together and be inspired and grow and learn.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to cost a lot, but it will cost you your time, and it will cost you who you were in order to become who you're meant to be.
Got it. And is there any physical practices that you say people should take to start moving in that direction? Should they be working out? What should some physical things that they should be doing?
Oh, I mean, I think it's just, I think walking's always great. Working out is always great. It kind of depends on where you're at in life, how physically able or disabled you are. Mm-hmm. Do what makes you feel good. Do what makes you feel in alignment. For me, I love, we live near the beach. I love walking on the beach. I also love just doing really gentle yoga, at home. I love working with, bands.
It works
for me. Yeah, it works for me. And it might not work for somebody else. So I would say the biggest thing you can do, the absolute biggest thing you can do every day, the physical, it's really a mental exercise, is to sit and visualize the person that you need to be in order to accomplish what you're meant to do. And see who that person is so that you can become them.
Yeah. That
That's
is
the biggest thing.
such great advice. And even if you're not the person to sit and like meditate, I always tell people like write it, like take out a pen
Yeah.
and paper and just write that person that you think that person should be.
Right. Who
Um,
are you? Who is
yeah,
that person? Who is the I that can do this? You know, the
yeah,
Mariko that was stuck in bed is not the Mariko of today.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, and I set out to create a business that was multicultural, that reached across all kinds of barriers and invited all sorts of people in. And I'm still becoming, you know, I think we're always becoming that next level CEO.
Yeah.
So,
All
yeah,
right. So
visualize that.
I got a couple more questions and I'm gonna let you go. What is one thing you wish you had known before you actually had to have a near-death life experience? You know, you wish you had known it before that experience actually happened.
I think that's a great question. I think the biggest aha for me, you know, there were so many, but I think
Mm-hmm.
the one that really applies to every single being on the planet is that analogy that the obstacle you think is insurmountable is when you leave this world, you're going to see that it was like a little string, 6 inches off the ground. You just need to step over it. Had I realized that all my obstacles weren't a big deal and I have faced many, I would have, because now in my mind, when I see an obstacle, I kind of lower it to the ground
Yeah.
and I see how I can step over it. And I think that would have been really, really helpful to know. But I had to live through it in order to get that.
Got it. And before I go, two more questions. How can someone get aligned with universe, God, whatever their religious practice is, or even if they're not, how would you recommend them getting in alignment with that?
You're not out of alignment with it. You are it.
Mm.
It's so people call it, it's a funny question. It's a great question because I get it a lot, but I'm always like, you know, I get these people and they call and they're so wonderful. And they're like, they ask that same question. I'm like, you're so funny because you're kind of like a fish swimming in water going, oh my God, I'm so dry. I'm so dry. Like, look at me. I'm so scaly. Do you have lotion? Does anyone have moisturizer? I am so dry and scaly. I am so dry. There's no water anywhere. And I'm like, you're a fish swimming in water. You are wet. You know, it's just, we forget who we are. But you are, right? Abundance is literally your birthright. It's literally, you're allowed as much as you want.
Got it. It's almost like what you said in the beginning, how you thought you were a physicist. You said you're a physicist when you're 4, and the imprint of the adults made you feel like that's what you had to be.
Yeah. And I looked for more.
Yeah, and
that.
Yeah, and a lot of that is maybe this the societal outside norms. You know, they forget that they're a fish because everyone is telling them that they're something else versus just seeing what they are.
Yeah, and truly you are. I mean, I joke with people that they're fish because they get a better analogy, but truly it is like a drop of water outside of the ocean, and that drop of water forgets that it's part of the ocean.
Yeah,
and is looking to moisturize itself. But it actually is water. And when it goes back into the ocean, you know, when we leave this world and we go back into the ocean of divine consciousness, you realize you are everything you thought you needed, you already are. The only thing, this journey is between your head and your heart. You know, it's saying, I am all of that. I own it. I own my divinity. You're not out of alignment with it. You're just saying the wrong things to yourself. And maybe your actions are not supporting that divine birthright.
got it. All right. And my last question, if you were to part with, if they would never ever hear Mariko Fredericks ever again, and it was the last word they're going to hear from you ever, what would you want them to leave with?
Don't hold back. Like, live the assignment on your life. You'll never regret it. You'll never regret it. Even if you're just telling yourself, I'm living the assignment on my life.
Cool.
It's really a matter of saying yes to the universe without knowing and having the whole blueprint in front of you, but saying, yes, I'll do it. Whatever it is, I'll do it. Even if it's like a sketch on a napkin, I'll do it. And really putting your whole heart into it so that the universe can respond and give and fill in the details for you. But it really is just that willingness. So I would say go for it with all of your heart and soul.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for dropping the abundance of nuggets today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a fun conversation.